Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program, one of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Brian Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Brian is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Brian is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
Welcome to Between the Lines. We've got the show tonight. It's all about the pool and other things happening in Oak Ridge. And I'm here tonight with Mayor Warren Gooch to talk about these issues. And we've had hundreds of inquiries, and we're excited about tonight's show. And I promised people all across East Tennessee that I would get it to them. And it's exciting. And you can tell by looking at which one's the attorney. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It looks different.
There's our pool. Which one's the
mayor.
mayor.
Look how big that pool is. The mayor, there you go. Well, mayor, okay, that's fair. That's fair. But, you know, attorneys always have great papers. But
well, it is.
You're such a well-known attorney. The mayor thing is kind of a...
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you. Good evening.
Glad to be here. We're looking at the pool.
That's right.
Showing some pictures of the pool.
58,000 square feet, almost 2 acres.
And when I was a child, and that was a long time ago, Lauren, the bottom line is I think it was the biggest pool in the South and the 4th biggest in the United States. And I hear it's still in the top 10 or 15. Brad was telling me so.
Well, and in terms of a spring-fed pool, I think it probably is the largest.
We're still spring-fed, right?
Yeah, still
okay,
spring-fed.
Here we go. All right, we're going to start. Here we go. We're going to talk about it. Apparently, my good friend Rick Chin is in the middle of a controversy, and I think probably unfairly in a lot of ways, because he's just trying to look after what's good for the city. But he raises a lot of good questions, and I think questions that have to be answered. And the citizens are concerned, obviously, that there are all kinds of movements, Facebook pages. They're going to close the pool. They're not going to close the pool. But for sure, there are issues with the pool.
That's correct, and everybody's entitled to their opinions. Sure. They're not entitled to make up their own facts, and I'm glad we're here tonight. Okay. We can try to put some perspective on things and put everything in context.
All right.
First of all, the pool is the crown jewel of the parks and recreation assets of the city of Oak Ridge.
I agree.
Now, I want to say that one more time. It's the crown jewel. But it was built in 1945. It was a farm pond, and it was made into a pool. And as I understand it, at least some of the records indicate that they just came in, put wooden boards at the bottom of the pond, and at some point later, then they built the concrete. Sure. Okay. Now, I believe the pool was rebuilt the last time, or repaired, in 1992, and opened again in 1993. That's an important date to remember, because, again, it's my understanding that the life cycle of pools, municipal pools of this size, are around 30 years. So we're approaching that 30-year anniversary, and we'll need to make decisions about how we go forward with the pool. In 2017 and 2018, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on repairs inside the pool, on the filters, and then the shell, the lining. And when we did the off spots, fixing those, as they drilled down and took out some stuff, they had to go down to the rebar. And they found then that there were structural issues with the pool that were going to have to be addressed. So that's where we are today. We're losing around 150,000 gallons of water a day. Now, a day. Now, some of that obviously is due to just nature itself, but the others, there are leaks, and we're trying to do dye tests and other measurements to determine where those leaks are and where the water's going.
And what does the leaks? We're spring fed. The
Right.
water's coming to us.
Right.
What is the cost of those? What is the cost to the city of that leak?
Well, it depends on how much water's coming in, replacing from the spring, and that'll depend obviously on the rainfall and other weather. But if we can't maintain the water level from the spring, then we have to use water from the city system. Your drinking water to fill the pool, and the cost of that can be
significant.
Can be significant. Now, so let's jump forward from that. We can go back to some more facts later,
Sure.
but so the controversy related to the chlorine briskets, and that's what's used, briquettes.
Sure.
They're used to keep the pool
Sure,
clean,
same thing we use in our home
sanitized.
pools, right?
That's
Yeah.
correct,
All right.
because we don't use chlorine gas anymore. The chlorine gas was replaced several years ago because obviously it was a hazard. We
Safer,
needed
sure.
upgraded, but the briquettes are obviously more expensive. So, in June? In June, city staff brings an item on the consent agenda for the purchase of the briquettes that would be for a year.
Yes.
Those there not been a bid on those.
Yes.
Okay, so
They wanted sole sourcing on that.
they
correct?
did sole sourcing, and I think they did it as a matter of time to get it on the agenda. Well, two things have to happen. First, if someone objects to an item on the consent agenda, it comes off. Okay?
Correct.
And so there were a couple of questions about the cost and the briquettes themselves. So it comes off the consent agenda, but everybody voted for it with the exception of Rick.
Yeah.
And he had an issue, not so much, I don't think, with the cost of it, although he has some concerns about that, but the fact that we didn't get bids.
The process.
Okay,
Sure.
the process.
Yeah.
So he voted against it. So it was a 6-1 vote. But under state law and under our charter, it has to be unanimous when it's a sole source contract.
Which it should be.
Okay,
Right.
so at that point, it fails because it wasn't unanimous. And I
Correct.
said at the time, all right, we'll have to go back out for bids.
Sure.
And that's what we're going to do. And we'll put it on the next available agenda.
Right.
And if that doesn't work, then I'll call a special meeting if I have to. I don't think we will, to get the contract approved.
Okay.
And so then people started getting concerned that somehow the pool was going to close, the pool was unsafe. It was never unsafe. It was never going to close. We've got issues related to certified lifeguards and keeping that number of people and the hours of the pool. But the pool was never going to close. And there were enough there was enough chlorine to get through the season, this season, but staff had wanted to go ahead and buy the briquettes all at once before price increases because they keep going up every year. So anyway, then we come to
What was the cost of that?
as I recall, it was around $69,000. But
That's a lot of briquettes.
yeah, well, but it was for a year and a half.
Yeah,
So fiscal year 21,
Okay.
which concluded June 30th.
Correct.
Okay. The overall budget for the pool was $275,000. And the budget that's just been approved for fiscal year 2022, which would take us
Sure, to next year.
The pool budget has been increased to $334,000. And involved in that, the biggest item, of course, is personnel. Then you have operations, water, electricity, et cetera,
Sure.
and then supplies and chemicals.
Okay.
So that's the story, the budgetary story, on the pool.
Okay.
And it was never going to close as a result of not having the chlorine
For next year.
And so again, people got concerned, and I think there were a lot of things expressed that weren't quite accurate. And but there's a lot of there's a lot of emotion about this pool because it's iconic.
Sure.
And as I say, it's the crown jewel of Parks and Rec, and it's available to everybody. And so that's the issue.
Yeah. Let me ask a couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, I think I share the concern of the people that it's not. Well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
I think we could have it open more, do more things in the off season. It's kind of a unique setting. I think it could be. We talked about this in Blankenship times. It could be utilized for more things. I have a friend that called me and said I tried to rent the pool. And whatever it costs, I was going to rent the pool for a party, a rather famous person, and they said, no, we don't rent the pool anymore. We're not renting it out. That may be a COVID issue or whatever. Okay. I'm just worried about, is there income possibilities to offset some of those improvements that are not being utilized by the city? Could we do more?
All right, well, let's take the COVID. COVID definitely had an impact on pool operations last year.
On everything, yeah.
And on everything.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest issue we have in terms of expanded hours through the summer, expanded hours after normal working hours, is the fact that we don't have enough certified personnel.
Okay.
And it's hard to keep the lifeguards. We have enough to keep our certification and keep the pool open for regular hours. But again, when school starts, both college and high school, we lose our guards, and we don't have enough, given the size of the pool, to keep it open. So right now, the pool will be open through regular hours through the first week in August, and then the second week in August, unless we can find more certified lifeguards or convince people to continue to work after school or whatever. The last operation of the pool will be, I think, August the 14th, which is a Sunday.
And that's due to everybody going back to school.
That's correct.
Go way back.
That's correct.
I think the one value the pool has, and I've looked at it and thought about it, certain neighborhoods have their own pools.
Correct.
They have their own. I think working class people utilize the pool, and I think daycares utilize the pool, and I think it's there for lack of a better term, the working man or the working families and the neighborhoods it's in.
It's a pool for everyone.
That's right, and not every pool's for everyone.
That's correct.
And that's why it's so important too.
There's no question about
you and I talk about that kind of, but I mean, not. And another question is, it's in a historical district. I mean, this is a hub zone and everything else. Does the pool have the ability, not that I'm suggesting this, but just to become a historical registered site because of its history?
I don't know, and what the answer to that, I would not support that.
No, I understand.
And the reason that I wouldn't support it is because once something becomes a historical marker, then the process of making any improvements, any changes, becomes far more difficult because you're not only dealing with the Department of Conservation, but you're also the Historical Commission. And I'm not being critical. I've dealt with them. You're right. And I'm not being critical of that. We're going to have to do a lot of background work, engineering studies during this off season to find out where those leaks are, how much it's going to take, to repair those. I'm hoping that the Parks and Recreation Board will take up the issue about the pool in terms of making recommendations as to what they think would be in the best interest of the city in terms of going forward. Do we rebuild the pool? Do we keep it the same size? What are the things that we need to do to be sure that over the next 30-year life cycle of the pool, whether it's repaired or whether it's brand new, that we get the maximum benefit to the maximum number of people in the city?
And my problem is from what I hear, and I haven't been down there, they don't take credit cards. It's not modernized. We could build a splash pool in it. We could do other things. We have the acres to do it, attract more people to it, market it better. So the idea comes up, why not turn it over to management of it to professionals that know how to do that? Now, I know that doesn't play into your model, but I mean, that's a good question. It's a good question. People that run pools and know pools, not to own it, but to manage it, is there an opportunity there to make it a better pool?
Well, let me just say I would be hesitant to do that.
Okay.
And I would be hesitant to do that because of our experience with Centennial Golf Course, which was basically subcontracted out to a national company, and it lost money.
Right.
Oh, by the way, now it is turning a rather substantial profit,
right,
because the city took it over.
Yeah.
We brought our people back in. Now, again, not trying to divert away from your question, but I'm not sure an outside contractor would necessarily be the answer. Now,
we can hire somebody with experience in that area.
And we do have a couple of good people, but again, this is a budgetary issue that's a larger issue than just the pool. But the recreation and parks personnel is probably the smallest number of people that we have, in city government.
Okay. We got to take a break, Mayor.
Okay.
We'll come back. We'll come back in 2 minutes to follow up more on this subject. Thank you for watching.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Cash in your gold now to get the most money. With gold at all-time highs, TK Wheeler Jewelers in Oak Ridge is paying top dollar for your gold, silver, platinum, diamonds, and coins. And TK Wheeler Jewelers pays cash. Broken chains, mismatched earrings, bracelets, rings, old school rings, gold charms, old watches, and even coin collections. TK Wheeler Jewelers in Oak Ridge, where you get the most money now for your old gold. So cash in now at TK Wheeler Jewelers, 422 South Illinois Avenue in Oak Ridge.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
At Roan Medical Center, we are committed to serving this community and providing the best possible care for our patients. We have 20 medical specialists on staff representing all areas of care in a clean and safe environment. You don't have to go out of town to receive excellence in outpatient services, so please don't delay. The care you deserve is right here, right now. For the moments of need, we are here for you.
Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program, one of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We're talking with Mayor Warren Gooch about the Oak Ridge swimming pool, the challenges we face ahead, and what we can do to try to make it work better for the citizens of Oak Ridge. First, let me thank Judge Roger Miller, Sessions Judge Roger Miller, Ryan Spitzer for Circuit Court Judge, Protection Strategies, and our main banner sponsor, Lewis Reidner for Circuit Court Clerk today. I appreciate their sponsorship. We're going to go back. I got a few. I'm just going to play lightning round here for a second. Right. Okay. What about raising the price for non-Oak Ridge residents?
Let's see where we are with operations before we start raising prices for anybody. I'm a little reluctant to do that.
Is the concession stand open?
I think so.
Yeah, somebody asked me.
Yeah.
They said somebody mentioned. What about season pass with picture ID? I mean, is that overkill, or is that something 2 or 3 people said maybe we need to get a season pass where people can't get in without? You know what I'm talking about, getting a compromise. So that's
I think we could look at that again from an operational standpoint. You got to be sure you got enough people.
Okay, longer swim season. You've addressed that.
We'd love to do a longer swim season, but
you got to have adult guards though. You can't have student guards. You got to have adult guards on that. Okay.
Well, not necessarily adult, but they got to be certified regardless of.
But they can't go back to school. I mean, we need people that'll work, for a longer period of time, or at least get through August. Labor Day is the traditional time.
Correct.
What about allowing underprivileged youth to swim for free? I don't. Why can we?
I would support that.
I know you would. I don't know how qualifying those people might be difficult.
Correct. Yeah, and again, that's
but groups.
something
We could do groups.
We could do groups. I think.
Bring them from and make them do the process, limit the number. But I think that's something we can.
But something we can look at. Something we can look at going forward.
Something else that I think a lot of people call me were concerned about is a smaller footprint. Is that on the table to reduce the size of the pool?
We won't know until we get the engineering studies and determine exactly where the leaks are, how much it's going to take to repair those, or redo the shell of the pool.
Right.
And we just need to take.
Do you know what areas the leaks are in? Do you know which side of the pool?
No. That's what I'm saying. They can't find them really until the pool's closed down for the year, and so that's.
Sounds like my backyard.
Well, and you mentioned credit cards, and I think we're at the point now where going forward we need to look at using credit cards.
So let's go over the time frame, and we'll jump to another subject.
Right.
So the time frame is we're going to get through August 14th, which is
Correct.
2 weeks. The pool.
And let me say this: in the event that we can arrange for more certified lifeguards, we're open to keeping the pool, or at least opening it for like a Wednesday or weekends through Labor Day. But at this point, we don't have that done.
And in the off season, we're going to formulate a plan. The city's going to formulate a plan how to go forward with the pool. At this time, but we can say to the people,
yes,
we're not going to close the pool.
Not going to close the pool.
All right, that's the important thing. We need to know that save the pool.
And again, I want to do the engineering studies to be sure that we don't have any kind of
major
problems or sinkholes or whatever that could cause a potential safety issue. But I don't have any idea that that's the case now. But I think everyone that I know is in favor of Oak Ridge having its crown jewel intact.
Including Rick Chin, who swam there as a kid. He wants to do what's right. I know you always have, and you provide that leadership. I think we've got enough answers to know we're going to go forward, and we're going to try to evaluate this pool, and there are some questions. And I don't have a problem with sole source being rebid. Haven't been in the business. I think that's always good stewardship to make sure you got the best price, especially when it's not for this season, it's for next season. I think I think that was a legitimate request on that. On Tuesday, you opened the preschool, new preschool. Tell us about it.
Well, the city opened the new preschool, the grand celebration, the grand opening. Obviously, it was opened last year for students.
Sure.
It was first year, but we couldn't do the public celebration because of COVID. So this past Tuesday, we had hundreds of people there, including the children who will be have started school this week, it was just a grand celebration and a day of affirmation. We celebrated everything that's good about the pre-K, its history being the first preschool in Oak Ridge, having its founding, its origins in Scarborough, directly across the street, and how it moved 3 or 4 times, and finally, we had to make the decision that we needed a new pre-K school to house pre-K and Head Start, and so that. We did that. We came together, put just a tremendous site selection committee together that was chaired by Dr. Shirley Raines, the retired president of the University of Memphis, who, by the way, is the only pre-K teacher that has ever been a college or university president. And
How many children are attending the preschool?
Okay, there are about 200 children, I think that's right, 180, 200 pre-K, and then we've got another 140 thereabouts for Head Start. So it is,
300 plus.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. The building is state of the art. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes that's a overhyped phrase. In this case, from top to bottom, everything about it in terms of the architecture, the engineering, the safety, the recreational activities are.
How about the learning technology for young kids? I mean, like
it has everything.
It has all the technology.
Yes, it has all the technology. It is fully integrated.
Okay.
And then, as part of this, it is in the middle of the Scarborough community, and adjacent to the pre-K school, the Scarborough Park has been renovated on both sides of the street, and that was obviously a big issue for the residents of Scarborough because they'd been promised that for years, and it never happened. And so it was incredibly important for the city to affirm its obligations, its commitments to the people of Scarborough. That's what we did. It was absolutely important that we affirm our sacred commitment that in Oak Ridge, every child is going to have the best education that we can provide, and that we affirmed our support for what pre-K and Head Start does in the lives of our children. City Council, Board of Education worked extremely closely on this. Anderson County worked with us because Anderson County has the contract for Head Start. And they come to us and said, you got to move Head Start out of the old school administration building because of concerns about lead and other things. And so we kept our word to the county. They worked with us again in building this new facility. And Oak Ridgers are proud, but the state of Tennessee needs to be proud too. This is an incredible facility, an incredible program, and it's in an incredible community.
Is it? Yeah, the Scarborough's always. As a child growing up and interacting with the Scarborough community, living across town or up the hill or whatever you want to call it, it's a beautiful area. If you've never been there at sunset or you've never been in that neighborhood, it's wonderful.
And Mr. L.C. Gibson, Larry Gibson, which everybody knows, was one of the speakers today, and he talked about. He thought it was one of the most historic events. The opening of the school and the building of the school in Scarborough was one of the most important events and achievements in the history of Oak Ridge, and he's lived here for 70 years.
Talk to me about the schools a little bit while we're on the subject.
Sure.
Schools are healthy? I mean, everything's
Schools
good?
are healthy. Dr. Borchers and I talked this week. Keith, Phil, and I obviously talk every week. And so far, so good as it relates to everybody back in person, in schools. Hopefully, we can minimize the rate of infection, COVID infections going through the fall. I would encourage all of the people that are listening to this program, if you haven't gotten a vaccination, please do. Please do.
I think this is me working every day and talking to the public in different situations. I think most of the adults that I know have been vaccinated or certainly attempting to, but there is a major hesitancy to get their child vaccinated. That I think the teachers are all vaccinated. I think the children are heading back to school, but as long as all of the teachers are vaccinated, I think we have a fairly safe environment.
Well, of course, the vaccinations for children, that is 18 and younger, is 12 to 18. It remains to be seen whether or not the CDC is going to put out new guidelines that would allow children between 8 and 10 to be vaccinated. But I'm just talking about adults. I mean, we've still only 42% of the population in Anderson County are fully vaccinated.
Yeah, and
it's important that we keep the infection rates down so that we don't have children getting ill, others getting ill, that then put a strain or stress on our school system in order to be able to stay open, because they clearly want to stay open. We want them to stay open. It's the best interest of the children to be in school.
No question. I mean, when you get into the collateral issues, they got to be in school.
Yes.
And we've seen, my wife works in, as you know my wife.
Yeah.
My wife works in the criminal justice system. The number of overdose deaths, the number of domestic violence, everything soared during COVID because everybody was trapped at home. I think the children most look forward to not wearing masks, with all due respect to the mask thing. I mean, you didn't even get to know people. I mean, now they can see each other. I think school year will be positive. I think it'll be a good year for everyone.
I think it will be positive, but I think people need to remember, too, that last year, the masks were basically promoted, and I give our children in school a lot of credit for it, because they wanted the mask on, and if one of their classmates didn't have the mask on, they asked them to do it. So I'm proud of them.
I can only speak for Oak Ridge High School, but it was well policed. I mean, they checked them at the door going in, checked them coming out, badges, everything. Right. They were very. Garfield's doing a good job. I like Garfield. I mean, he's a product of our community.
Correct.
He's done an outstanding job as a principal. The best I can tell. I mean, I'm not down there, but I think he's committed. That's what I always look for in education. How committed are you to the process and everything? So I think he's done really well with that. So tell me, we got preschool. Let's talk about downtown. I call it downtown. I'm a kid of the 60s.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good. Main Street continues with its openings. Obviously, Five Below has opened. I think look for Old Navy, Home Goods, and Ross Dress for Less to be open. By October.
Christmas for sure.
Oh, Christmas for
got to get the season done.
Christmas for sure.
Well, you're on the hook for Old Navy. I mean, my family, everybody's family. Call the mayor, see if Old Navy's open.
It's coming. It's coming. They're coming, and again, as you look at the sales tax reports, and we only now have them through May, but on the Anderson County side, sales tax is much, much higher, tremendous increase over last year. And even last year in the COVID year, there was an increase in the year before. Now, it's not just Main Street and retail, but that they're a strong part of it. And clearly, the sales tax from the UPF project. But Main Street coming on, and I think we're going to have a huge back to school and holiday shopping season. We've got new restaurants coming online, and so car sales continue to move.
It's important. That fee is important.
Yeah.
In revenue, having worked in government, I think we went to Big Ed's 2 weeks ago today. It was on a Thursday afternoon, and we saw 40 people in line. We went to the fair and worked for a week. Biggest fair ever in the county fair. You go by Chris Keever's place, and you get crowds now that you hadn't seen in probably a year down at Crafter's Brew. I just think it's going to be a booming fall and season unless we get. And I think Governor Lee's committed to keeping everything open. I do, but there's realities too. You have to check things.
Let's talk about Wilson Street too. And when I talk about Wilson Street, some people call it town center, whatever. The fact that the land bank, the Oak Ridge Land Bank, has bought parcels of vacant land on and adjacent to Wilson Street for development, and there's going to be...
And for our viewers, Wilson Street's the street that runs right by Oak Ridge Pharmacy, right below the town center there, the Main Street. It goes straight across there, okay.
And just adjacent to, and it comes out on 2 Lane. So Town Place Suites, right by Town Place Suites. So they're going to go out for requests for proposals from developers to do development up and down Wilson. That would be combined, housing, residential, retail, and commercial. And we have that whole street available for redevelopment or new development. And as I tell people, were it not for Main Street and redoing the mall property, there would be no redevelopment of Wilson Street, because the city, as part of the Main Street development, put in $1.5 million in terms of utility improvements, a new street, etc. And so now we're seeing the next generation of development, and I'm excited about what's going to happen on Wilson Street. I'm very excited about the record of Main Street, and with these other stores coming on, it's going to be even greater.
Let's take a break. 2 minutes. We'll be back to talk more about the city of Oak Ridge and its future.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Cash in your gold now to get the most money. With gold at all-time highs, TK Wheeler Jewelers in Oak Ridge is paying top dollar for your gold, silver, platinum, diamonds, and coins. And TK Wheeler Jewelers pays cash. Broken chains, mismatched earrings, bracelets, rings, old school rings, gold charms, old watches, and even coin collections. TK Wheeler Jewelers in Oak Ridge, where you get the most money now for your old gold. So cash in now at TK Wheeler Jewelers, 422 South Illinois Avenue in Oak Ridge.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
At Roan Medical Center, we are committed to serving this community and providing the best possible care for our patients. We have 20 medical specialists on staff representing all areas of care in a clean and safe environment. You don't have to go out of town to receive excellence in outpatient services, so please don't delay. The care you deserve is right here, right now. For the moments of need, we are here for you.
Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program, one of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Welcome back. We're back with Between the Lines, and we're talking to Mayor Warren Gooch about the city of Oak Ridge and those issues which we face and the good things that are happening. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Wilson Street before we move on to something else. You say residential. Now, we got the apartments going in across from where the old post office is. What kind of residential?
In other words, mixed use. I mean, in many cities, Greenville, South Carolina, for instance, they as they redid their Main Street from east to west, north to south, and what you saw up and down their Main Street was a mix of residential apartments, condominiums on top of commercial properties or restaurants or retail. So Wilson Street development will give us the opportunity to do really mixed-use development in a special zoning district. So that adds incentives and the ability to do it without dealing with the traditional zoning restrictions in terms of multi-use.
Knowing Wilson Street, most of the development, well, you got the Marriott and across the street you've got the Kumi restaurant, and then you come down Wilson, and you got a lot where the Arc bowling lanes used to be. You got a lot of space over there for development. As you come down here, not much on this side. I mean, most of it's on this side, right?
Good, but again, you know what happens with that in terms of reuse, repurposing, redevelopment. We'll see, but it's exciting to think about what can happen, and there are multiple groups that are working on that, and I think it holds, you know, real promise.
And would that development extend all the way to where the municipal building intersection? Or
correct.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
So it could go
two lane
further.
to Rutgers.
2 lane to Rutgers. That's a good way to say it. Tell us. Housing seems to be doing well in Oak Ridge, in the West End especially.
I think housing, it's my understanding that the length of time that a house from listing to being, you know, under contract
there's no inventory.
Is the shortest it's ever been in the last 25, 30 years.
Issue too. It's certainly an East Tennessee issue.
But so that's good news.
Very good.
So we're having housing starts across the city, east to west, and again, given the challenges in terms of building materials, building supplies, difficulties in the chain of supply. But the houses are still going up, and to preserve, particularly, they're bringing on more units. So I think that's really good. We never thought we'd be dealing with this issue quite this soon, but if we keep having this increase in residential units, and I think we do, we will, then we'll have to start talking about how are we going to expand our elementary schools, and that's a good problem to have.
Yes, it is. And this might be the right time to say this before we move in the Department of Energy, and that's basically that we've overcome obstacles in the last 4 to 5 years that we were never overcome before, and a lot of that I think is based on your leadership, and I compliment you on that. We're not always on the same side of things, but I mean, it's just been, I can give an example without using names, where we were wanting to develop something 5 or 6 years ago, and we got an obstacle thrown at us by a mid-level manager, and you got involved, and that problem went away, and that mid-level manager got instructions that he needs to get out of the way and let Oak Ridge do what they need to do. That was never done before, and we appreciate you for that.
Well, thank you, but let me just say this. I think that the city council is outstanding. We've worked together. We don't always agree, but we do have a vision for where we want the city to be headed, and we think we're in a much stronger position than we were 7, 8 years ago. Clearly, the working relationship between City Council and the Board of Education has never been better. That's extremely important for lots of reasons.
Yes.
And then the city staff works exceptionally hard. And a lot of folks don't understand that the number of city employees is much, much, much smaller than what you have at the Department of Energy in any office.
Sure.
And quite frankly, the city employees are about half the number of what you have in the school system. And so my hat's off to the city employees. I mean, I think they're doing great work.
And I appreciate that, but Tampa Bay worked hard until Brady got there. That's going to be my simile. I want to talk about the Department of Energy because it plays such a major role. We need a water plant.
That's correct.
Badly need a water plant.
And we correct.
Badly need a water plant.
And we are in the market for requests for proposals. That is being held up at this point in order to finalize the construction easements across the reservation. We've got to have those in place, and I think they're going to come fairly soon before we can start drawing down the money from our loan sources, the WIFIA fund at the federal level and the state revolving loan fund. They said you got to have signed, sealed, and delivered on the construction easements, and then we're good to go. But we are going to build that water plant, and it is absolutely crucial to the safety and the stability of this city. It's 30,000 residents and DOE, because they get every drop of water from that 75-year-old plant, and it is we have got to get this done, and we are.
Tell us a little about the history of it. When was it built? Problem must be supplying parts. If it was built 75
well, it was
years
75 years ago, and so the
math, right.
the turbines, the filters at the original plant site
in the late 40s.
So there are no replacement parts for it. We've done, if something goes out, it's going to have to be it's going to have to be done.
You've been fighting this battle for 2 years, haven't you?
That's right.
Yeah.
And 3 really.
Yeah.
But we're there now, and we're pumping, we're pumping water from the intake, almost 3 miles to, the filtration center, and the plant on top of the hill, where it then sends out the water, 19 miles away. So it is past time to upgrade and build a new water plant. And we did our due diligence. I mean, it's clear that building new was going to be more cost effective than trying to repair what was there. So,
what percentage of water goes to the Department of Energy versus the city?
It's about 50-50 now, and their projections going forward that will shift more, where the water usage is more on the city side as opposed to the federal side, because of actions that they're taking to reduce their consumption of water, etc. But those will be in the contract between the feds and the city, and those ratios will be adjusted, on a periodic basis to be sure that everybody's paying their fair share.
And we've gotten fairly good cooperation from the federal people and the state people. I mean, in terms of representatives like Lieutenant Governor McNally, Congressman Flashman. I think everybody's on board with this.
And Congressman Flashman has went out of his way to help us get some funding, some earmark funding to apply toward the water plant. And he was successful on the House side of getting, I think, $4 million. Now, we'll see where that goes on the Senate side in terms of the appropriation bills. But as I told people, look, whether it's 1 cent or $44 million, which is what the plant's going to cost, whatever we get from the federal government helps. It reduces the amount of money that the city of Oak Ridge will be borrowing, which then adds
to the electric rates,
to the water rates. Correct.
Yeah, and that's and justifiably so. Let's take one more short break, and we'll be right back to conclude the show. Thank you for watching Between the Lines.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
At Roan Medical Center, we are committed to serving this community and providing the best possible care for our patients. We have 20 medical specialists on staff representing all areas of care in a clean and safe environment. You don't have to go out of town to receive excellence in outpatient services, so please don't delay. The care you deserve is right here, right now. For the moments of need, we are here for you.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
We all know that real estate is location, location, location.
Our team at Just Homes Group Executives has the true expertise, pairing buyers and sellers with the right opportunities.
Whether you're looking to buy or sell a home right here in Knoxville,
Lenoir City, Clinton, or Farragut, we have the expertise throughout every Knoxville surrounding area. Call Just Homes Group Realty Executives today.
Between the Lines would like to thank Protection Strategies Incorporated for sponsoring tonight's program, one of our country's leading providers of integrated security services, including operational security, training, testing, and evaluation. Clients of PSI include the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Energy.
Welcome back to our final segment of Between the Lines with Mayor Warren Gooch. We're talking about everything Oak Ridge today and all the things that are going on. Mayor, we have about 4 or 5 minutes left, 6 minutes. So one of the things, there's been a lot of power outages.
Sure.
Like people call me, say, you know, we're going to shut you down for an hour or something goes off. I mean, not long term, but there's been a lot of 2 hour, 3 hour deals that affect people. What's causing that?
Particularly on the West End, and we've
affect people. What's causing that?
Particularly on the West End, and we've had more trees falling. Believe it or not, in one instance, after brush removal, snakes went up the power poles down the lines. You know,
wow.
Caused a power outage. We had the huge one in town several months ago when on Illinois Avenue when the contractor ran off the road, and we've taken steps working with TVA to fortify that particular area. And while it's fortified, it's kind of ugly, so they're going to have to work on beautifying that. But and they're going to do that. But again, back to the point, we're now to the in the area where we're going by hand, crews looking for particular issues. You know, on the West End, you know, we're going to replace some transformers. Our new automated system, integrated system, in terms of our utilities, which will be going online here, you know, in the next 6 months, will help identify where those problems are. Now we have to do it literally by hand. That's not the right engineering term. But we are extremely concerned and aware of the power outages and what we can do. And again, we're in a situation where our electrical grid, our water lines, a lot of our infrastructure is aging, and we're replacing it as best we can without sticker shock, because there's only so much we can do in terms of rate increases for our existing residents and citizens, and then also being competitive with our neighbors in terms of attracting people here.
What's the long-term plans or the long-term prospectus for the Semesto housings that run from Glenwood to Highland View? I mean, I know. I guess that's more of a personal question than a government question.
Well, clearly, there are.
And I mean,
there's differences of opinion on that. I want to promote the land bank to take an active interest in that.
Sure.
Because they're set up. They can take residential units as contributions because they're a 501c3.
Sure.
Again, when you're working with the historical overlay with, you know, in Highland and others, it creates challenges in terms of going in and you're doing less than taking a full street and other repairs, other revisions. So that one is That's an ongoing topic. You know, we didn't get here in the last 5 years, and
both of us having kind of political and sociological type backgrounds. It's very interesting because the Turnpike divides the community in a sense. Everybody, when I lived on the other side of the Turnpike, Briarcliff area for a long time, I got to get back to my side of the town. You know, my side there, and we have a different kind of unique perspective of. I don't know. I just think the Glenwoods and the Pine Valleys and the Highland Views and the Robertsvilles have a different character. Well, they're older. They're older. We're second and third generations, whereas, the Briarcliffs and the West developments are newer people who've been here.
But but even with that, we're doing what we can in terms of our budget capability in paving streets, in doing upgrades to utilities. And if we do that, you're hopeful that will lead to upgrades in some of the legacy housing, which has been there in many instances since 70 years.
That's right, or more. I mean, my house was built in 55, so that's 67. And of course, it's been upgraded, and it's up on the top of the hill. But I mean, there's a lot of houses, and the concern for me is always, you still got to have affordable housing. People got to be able to live. So, other side of the Turnpike, you're looking at 2 to 3. On our side of the Turnpike, you're looking at 1 to 150. So there's a benefit in having houses as long as they meet code and do what they're supposed to.
No question.
I think so. Hopefully sports this year will be excellent in Oak Ridge. I mean, we have a chance to get to games, not count how many people come in, all of that. We did last year to a certain degree, but I think there was a general fear without a vaccine of not knowing what you were up against. So I think that Oak Ridge and the middle schools, and I think there's an energy there that hasn't been there wasn't there last year. What's the long-term effects of COVID on the community? What do you think? Psychologically?
I think it was. I think it changed the way we do business in terms of people working at home or in an office, and I think we're still going to be going through that transition, for a number of years, and that clearly had an impact. And so for us, I mean, we still have many federal workers, Department of Energy workers, that are
working remotely.
My law firm, Kramer Racing, we have, probably 90% of our employees back, but those who had decided, for whatever reason, they preferred not to work in an office building or a smaller office building like the one we have in Oak Ridge, or on the, we've got the 25th and the 26th floors of the First Horizon Center in Knoxville. But if they wanted to work remotely, we still give them that opportunity. And I think a lot of employers are doing that. Clearly, on the business side, no question that it hurt our retailers. No question that it hurt our restaurants. Yeah. The challenge going forward here in the next 12 months are trying to avoid, and it's an Oak Ridge problem, it's a national problem, interruptions in the supply chain. And who's going to be able to deal with that? I mean, I had a conversation with my great friend, Mike Chase, the owner of Copper Cellar, and what they're doing, to try to offset any adverse effects and delays or interruptions in the supply chain. So, very important.
My two biggest observations, I think COVID hurt the most, was remote learning really didn't work. I mean, it did the best it could.
Right.
We were under circumstances, but and the teachers were as frustrated, I think, and the administration and everybody else, is that a fourth to a third, for whatever reason, collateral issues, whatever, weren't able to keep up, and there was major numbers of students that had to go service. So we missed a year of learning in our development. I think that was the major thing, and I think you're right. I'm not sure some of these companies ever go back to full office staffs.
I do think it is just critically important, and like I said, Dr. Borchers and I talked about this very point earlier this week, about we have to do everything possible to keep our schools open and keep our children at high school, all the way down to pre-K, and our teachers there, not only for the parents, but for the learning, capabilities and opportunities for our children.
And our teachers had a double duty. I mean, they really had to do this and they had to do that. it was hard. It was very hard. My son's in 9th grade, so it's different. It's like a restaurant.
Great things happen in Oak Ridge every day.
They do.
Just remember
it's a great
that.
place to live. Great.